Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Train Talk TV, hosted by the great American Rail fan. First off, I want to say happy Friday. Hope everybody's weekend is getting off to a great start. I will warn you now, today's topic is one that has opinions split down the middle. Some people love it, some people hate it, but it is coming. And that is autonomous vehicles, more specifically, autonomous trains. But before we talk about autonomous trains specifically, and you talk about the last 5 to 7 years for autonomous vehicles as a whole, anybody remembers a couple years ago, the biggest highlighted event was out in Colorado when Freightliner ran their first autonomous truck out on the highway with success and didn't hit anybody or hit anything. Your big rideshare company Uber, they are using autonomous vehicles out in Pittsburgh as taxis. Tesla just announced not too long ago that they're also planning a fleet of cars to drive autonomously as taxis in large cities. So even if you just Google autonomous vehicles over the last 5 or 7 years, you will see a lot of articles, a lot of stories written about the big advancements that they've made in this technology. And now we're starting to see it make headway in the railroad side. Most specifically, the article that caught my eye earlier this week was on Railway Age. They had an article on Rio Tinto out in Australia, and they're making advancements on the autonomous rail system that they're putting in place and have been since this is like 2008. Oh no, the testing didn't start till 2014, but the concept had been laid in 2008. Now what's going on out there is that they are upfitting their rail network to be 100% driverless, and get this, as early as the end of 2018. Rio Tinto says that when it is fully completed and operational, it will be the world's first fully autonomous heavy haul long distance railroad. Now, for those who don't know about Rio Tinto hauls iron out in Australia across the outback, which is, 1,000 miles of just wide open, empty desert. If you think about it, it's actually the perfect place to test such a technology, because what could go wrong? I mean, if the train derails out in the middle of the desert, the only thing that gets hurt is the equipment and the right of way. And they've been testing various systems that include onboard controls, right-of-way signaling, automated safety systems, and communications to control the train movements remotely. They have also even been testing a system that electronically controls the braking. And if you combine stuff like that with the current implementation of PTC, you could see where it's very possible for them to run a very safe train with nobody on it. Now, the main thing I want to get to with this is, if this program is successful out in Australia, how long would it be until they apply the technology to railroads here in the States? And how would you feel about autonomous trains? You're sitting out by the tracks one day, a couple years from now, you see a train approaching, you go to do the little horn pull motion, and when you look up in the cab, there's no one there. I say all that to say this: what will the future of railroad look like in even just say 5 years or the next decade, with as fast as autonomous technology is moving? How soon will we be looking at trains running across the country with no crews in them, or maybe just someone to supervise the controls in case of an emergency, kind of like how pilots do when the plane is flying in autopilot. How will this affect jobs in the railroad industry? Do you think it will put a lot of people out of work, or would it create new opportunities in the technology field as far as how it relates to railroads? You can think about this as close as your local rail yard or your nearest rail yard if you're not close to one. Imagine going to visit that rail yard if you're a rail fan or even a railroad worker, and your whole yard is switched by computer controlled locomotives, and the only people who may actually be out in the yard is a guy who throws switches or decouples the cars. But as far as the locomotives themselves, they would have a mind of their own. They'd be pre-programmed with their switching routines, and they just go, and they'll be at that all day long. Just things like that to think about. Or boarding your commuter train with nobody on it. It's just it gets a command from the dispatch center, and off it goes to the next station. Just little things you don't think about in your everyday routine or your regular train watching. If you think this will drastically change the railroad industry, let me know. If you think the effects of it will be nil or not even noticeable at all, shoot me a comment. Let me know how you feel about it. The link for the article will be in the description box. I am the Great American Rail Fan, and this has been Train Talk TV. Until next time.